Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amy Marie. Thank you for joining me today. Today I'm going to be doing big books that are intimidating me, that I really want to read. They're either books I own or books that are on my TBR, and I'm just struggling to get started with some of these because they are long books. So I'm making this list and I'm trying to work my way through some of these this year, and hopefully I can reference this in a year, see how I'm doing. We'll see. I have several collections on this list. So I have this Agatha Christie Hercule Poirot, the Complete Short Stories collection, and I love Agatha Christie. I love Agatha Christie's writing, and I've read some of the short stories in this. However, it is a massive edition. This has like 900 pages worth of short stories because it has every Hercule Poirot short story written by Agatha Christie. So as much as I'm excited to get to these, I'm just intimidated by like the sheer, like just how big it is. And it's pretty small font too. It's definitely not like huge. So I need to like maybe make a system where I like read 2 of these a week or something like that, because I'm just looking at this and going, wow, this is going to take forever to read, and I'm not someone who reads like a lot of short stories, so I think that's part of the other reason I'm a little intimidated. But there's so many amazing short stories on the list here that are included, so I want to get to them, but this is one that's definitely been on my TBR for a while. I've been slowly working my way through it, and one of my goals this year is to actually read some more short stories, so this will help me with that, but it is intimidating. I'm intimidated by it, certainly. A book that I do not currently own, but I do want to read, I believe, actually my husband might own it, but I want to read this one, is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. So this is a Russian classic. It's very, very popular, and it's, according to Goodreads, it's like 900 some pages, so it's long. Basically, the story takes place with Anna Karenina, who is I think she's like some kind of Russian like noble, like a countess or something like that. She lives in the Russian royal courts, and she just feels like her life lacks a lot of meaning. She doesn't like, the society she lives in. She doesn't like all the social obligations and stuff like that. She just feels very devoid of passion and like identity within this culture and the societal expectations and things that she's living in, is my understanding of the book. And she basically decides to follow her passion in one way or another, and this gets her into some trouble, and that's kind of what the book's about. And it sounds fascinating. I have not read anything by Tolstoy, so I don't know how well I'm going to gel with the writing, and that's something else I find harder to get over when I'm reading a big book by an author I've never read anything from before, because it's like that's a huge investment of time, and if I don't know if I like the author's writing, that's kind of a harder thing for me to get into. Like the Bronte sisters, I've read a lot of their works, so I'm less hesitant to jump into a new one by them because I like their writing style from what I've seen so far. But we'll see. That one's definitely one on my list. So this book is 500 pages. It's not as long as some of the other editions and things on this list, but it is one that's just been sitting on my TBR cart, and I want to read it, but I'm intimidated. And it's All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. And I've had some of you, I've mentioned this before, and you've all told me, no, it's good, you gotta read it, and I will. I'm gonna read it. I'm working on cozy mystery vlogs this year, and just reading vlogs in general, where I'm actually tackling a lot of the books on my TBR cart, because that's a goal of mine. I'll link the ones I've done so far above if you want to check it out, because I have had some really good reads on there. This one will probably make it into one of those vlogs, because I need to tackle it. I've had it for like 2 or 3 years too, because it was a gift and I was really excited about it, and I keep looking at it. So this takes place with like 2 different people, 2 points of views. We have Marie and we have Werner, and he's an orphan who grew up in Germany, and she is somebody who actually escaped into Paris, and she works near like the Museum of Natural History with her father, and somehow their lives end up like, joining together in some way. They end up meeting together, and it's just an exploration of the times. Right, this is right after World War II, because Marie actually escapes to the walled citadel of Saint Malo, where her great uncle lives, because the Nazis end up occupying Paris, so her and her father escape. So that's kind of the time setting this is to take place, at least part of it, during World War II. We have 2 people from vastly different backgrounds and different experiences during the war, and like kind of how their experiences come together in some way. So I've heard this is fantastic. It has so many good reviews. I'm going to get to it, but it's just, when I thought about doing this video, I was like, this has to make it on the list, because I just keep putting it off. Another one that is intimidating to me, and this is such a beautiful book, like look at this. This is another collection that I own. It's the Classic Tales of Mystery. This is a collection. It's by the Canterbury Classics. I usually have this up here. Sometimes you'll notice that, but look at this cover. I mean, gorgeous, right? And like, just gorgeous. So this includes different short stories from many different like mystery or horror writers. So we have Edgar Allan Poe, we have Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Agatha Christie, Dorothy L. Sayers, we have Edgar Wallace, Richard Cornell, R. Austin Freeman. We have a bunch in here. It's a gorgeous, it's such a beautiful book, but it's like 765 pages, so it's a lot. And again, if you have any suggestions, if you're someone who's like a master at reading short stories, or you're somebody who maybe was like me who had a hard time reading them, let me know what your strategy is for tackling one of these big books. Do you tend to read them, like just pick this book up and read nothing else and just keep going through it till you're finished? Or do you have like a system where you read a couple each week? Like, let me know what your system is, because that's what I'm lacking, is like a system, some way to execute my reading. But I'm very excited for this. It's a ton of different amazing like classic mystery and horror writers. I've read some of these, other ones are completely new to me, so I'm hoping to find some new writers. And I read the Marple collection that came out last year, I'll put a picture on screen, which had new authors like Lucy Foley and Ruth Ware, who wrote their take on a new Miss Marple story basically, and I loved that, but that was a much shorter collection, so I was able to read that over a week and not feel overwhelmed. But these just kind of overwhelm me, but it's so beautiful, and like, look at this gold. So I want to read this. I'm putting this video out here because I'm going to be working through this. I think my first one will be the Hercule Poirot, just because I've already started some of those, but this will probably be the next one I start tackling. Another classic I'd really like to buy and read eventually is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. I have not read anything by him. I've never read The Three Musketeers, and I'm very intimidated by The Count of Monte Cristo because it's over 1,200 pages, which... that's a long book. That's a very long book. I've only read 1 or 2 books that were ever that long, and that is a long book. But basically, the Count of Monte Cristo has been falsely imprisoned, and he is, very upset about this, of course, and he also learns that there's actually some kind of hidden treasure on Monte Cristo, so he starts to scheme and think about how he can escape from prison, get the treasure, and then use it to exact revenge on the 3 men who wrongly imprisoned him, or got him thrown in prison in some way. So it sounds really interesting. It's supposed to be a really interesting commentary on human nature and revenge and all these different motifs, and I'm very interested in it. It's just, again, really huge, really big book. Let me know if you've read it. Is it worth reading? I would love your opinion on that, or any of the other books I'm talking about. Which ones have you read that you thought were worth it or not worth it? Let me know. The other one I'm excited to read soon, I actually checked this out from my library, so I need to get reading, is The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins. This is supposed to be one of the first and greatest of English detective novels, so he's supposed to be a real classic for this, and I haven't read anything by him. I tried reading The Woman in White at one point, but I ended up returning it to the library. I didn't really get to it, so this will be really my first attempt at reading Wilkie Collins, and this is supposed to involve a theft of a moonstone. And I love heist. I love heists and mysteries. I think it's such a fascinating trope. And so this takes place with our main character Rachel, who is turning 18. She's having a big elaborate 18th birthday party. I think she's a very wealthy woman. She's very excited. She's wearing this big yellow diamond around her neck, which is the moonstone, and I guess this was a gem that is actually a diamond, but it was plundered from India, where they called it the Moonstone, and there's some secret, I don't know if there's a curse or some kind of legend behind it, and not everyone really is aware of that. Well, the Moonstone of course goes missing, and everyone is freaking out looking for it. There's Rachel, there's her romantic person who might have had something to do with it. There's some other people who were actually from India who maybe knew about the legend and maybe about the worth of it, so maybe they had something to do with it. There's a lot of different factors. It sounds really interesting, and like I said, I've heard such amazing things about Wilkie Collins, and I really love the heist element, so this sounded like a really good place to start. So I'm excited. I'm going to try to start this one this weekend. It is over 500 pages, so it's definitely not a short read, but I'm thinking if it's a good mystery, as I suspect it will be, it should be pretty, a good page turner at least, so we'll see how that goes. This one is another collection I own that I just need to figure out a way to tackle. It's the 50 Greatest Mysteries of All Time, compiled by Otto Penzler. I got this in a thrift shop 2 years ago, and I've only read 1 or 2 of them, which is really bad. I know. But this again is by a bunch of different really well-known classic writers. There's actually a short story by Wilkie Collins in here. There's a bunch of others. Let's see. We have Edgar Allan Poe's Wilkie Collins, Arthur Conan Doyle, we have Edith Wharton, O. Henry, Robert Baer, Ernest Hemingway. I didn't actually know that Ernest Hemingway wrote mysteries, so that'll be really interesting, but there are 50 in here, and all of these are from different years ranging from 1844 to 1996. So we have some newer classics as well as older classics in here. And again, I really want to get through this because it's supposed to be an amazing collection. It's supposed to be a good way to introduce myself to some new writers I've never read before, because the majority of these I have not read anything from, and I want to tackle this. It's just a really big book. It is about 600 pages, so it's definitely a pretty solid book for that. And then last but not least, this one is definitely not a longer book. This is the other one that's not like a big book, but it's one I'm intimidated by for a different reason. I thought it'd be interesting to include, and that's actually this thriller collection by Louisa May Alcott. Now, if you're familiar with Louisa May Alcott, you probably know her for Little Women, like I do. I've read her Little Women. It's one of my favorite classics of all time, and it's a very cozy read overall. It's a very cozy, heartwarming classic with like life lessons, and follows the stories of the four March sisters as they grow up, and it's just if you haven't read it, please go read it. It's amazing. I'm intimidated to read her thrillers because they're supposed to be very much like a blood and thunder, like these are supposed to be really good thrillers. She actually got started writing thrillers as a way to support herself monetarily, and then once she started to write those and had a little more money and stuff, she was able to start writing Little Women as well, and that's what she became really well known for. But the thrillers were initially published under a different name, like a pen name, and I'm really interested in reading them because I've heard that she's amazing as a thriller writer as well as this more like classic, heartwarming, family-friendly book as well. So I'm very interested in that, to see the difference in her style, like how her writing comes across. Like, would I have been able to guess it was her, not knowing that heading into the thrillers? So I'm just intimidated because it's such a different genre than what I know her for, at least. So I don't know, I'm a little nervous. Let me know if you've read any thrillers by her. I know she's, very renowned for Little Women and the books following it and that like series, if you will. But I haven't really heard anything about her thrillers other than them being very widely reviewed and highly reviewed on Goodreads. So we'll see. I'm not sure. I know she's a fabulous writer, but it's a very, very different type of writing. So a little intimidated, but definitely want to get there one day and read those. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know down below, have you read any of these? Were they worth it to you? And what big books are on your list that you are personally a bit intimidated by? And, share with us down below. I'm join me in this. I know we all have at least one book sitting there just like looking at us. Like, at least I have a couple, as you've seen today. So thank you guys for watching. If you like mysteries, if you like cozy reads, if you like thrillers and just books in general, you'll love this channel. So definitely hit subscribe. I post new book content every single week on this channel. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!